It is the 10th of March 2019. Now, this year we see the National Leadership Retreat focusing on education among other topics, and of course the quality of education in Rwanda. And who are we not to look into it and see how we can contribute to the improvement of quality of education in Rwanda. Hello and welcome to In Focus, this edition, where we'll be examining the quality of education in Rwanda. And soon after this, I'll be introducing my panel. All right, welcome back. Now, for instance, the pass rate in last year's Senior 6 exams, we see a number of drops in performances. National exams in S6, we saw 1.3%. In S3, we saw 6.6%. And in Primary 6, we saw 5.2% drop in general pass rate. And we're here to examine what happened and what can be done to improve the pass rate in general national exams. To discuss this and more, I'm joined by a number of stakeholders and experts in this field. And right on my immediate right, it's Gloria Kamanzi Wizera, CEO of Glow Creations. And you're here as a product of the Rwandan system. And of course, you've attended some other schools outside Rwanda. Thank you so much for joining us. And Mutesi Gasana, do you have a Christian name?
I think those are enough.
Mutesi Gasana is a founder of Rise Education and a parent. And
yes,
you're here to share both ends of the subject,
yes,
as a parent and, of course, as an author.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And distributor of textbooks.
Yes.
Thank you so much for finding time to be part of us.
Inviting.
And, of course, who else? Samuel K. Birondwa, Principal, Cornerstone Leadership Academy. When I was reading through the comments, there are a lot of praises for you, Samuel. You've done quite an amazing job at Cornerstone. And thank you so much for joining us. I hope you had a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah? All right, let's kick off this. And probably I want to start with Samuel. Samuel, this drop that I've told you, 1.3% in S6 in the general performance. 6.6% in S3, and of course we have 5.2% in Primary 6. The government says it's because of the new curriculum, the competence-based curriculum. What is competence-based curriculum? If you've been doing this and you've probably been part of the changes, and what is this that is causing drop in general performance?
Thank you, Ethan, for the good question. Initially, we've been running a program that we call KBC, that's knowledge-based curriculum, basically where the teacher is the major provider of information and a little to do with the learner. But the government of Rwanda thought that that's not the best way to go, especially if you want to equip a generation with skills, with attitudes, with values, and practical skills for the job market. So the Ministry of Education designed the new curriculum that we call the competence-based curriculum, which is basically about giving how, after getting the knowledge, how do you appropriate it into skills and attitudes and values, and how do you apply it in the real marketplace. And so the drop, undoubtedly, yes, it's because people are used to the KBC, knowledge-based curriculum, and sometimes it's very hard for the students and as well as the teachers to adapt. But we are doing our best, Ministry of Education and the stakeholders, we are doing our best to make sure that we implement the CBC. But certainly, any new change you expect a little bit of, but we are on the right track undoubtedly, and we believe that it's going to make a difference.
Talking about, still on that topic and still on you, Cornerstone was the best, you told me, in S6 national exams.
Yes.
How did you, how were you able to, integrate smoothly from KBC, you said, to CBC?
Yes.
How did you integrate?
Basically, it's Cornerstone, apart from the normal curriculum of Ministry of Education, where we do subjects like any other, we do a national program. But we also have a program that we teach that we call character development. And it's under that, which is basically about where we teach students values, attitudes, and practical skills that are needed, like communication skills, critical thinking, and different other skills. So it's under those skills that basically that the CBC is targeting. And so in our other curriculum, not the one of Ministry of Education, that was developed by my organization, is where we teach some of those values. So I have no doubt that even when we teach the academic bit of it, this other part also helps a great deal. And we've also been able to reach out to different schools in partnership to make sure we share with them what has been working for us. We share practices. Yeah.
Gary, knowledge-based curriculum. You've heard the difference, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to start with him, to make sure that we bring you up to speed. You're of the knowledge-based curriculum. What do you think was the difference, between what he did and what is actually Sam is talking about?
Thank you. I would say I'm glad to hear from Sam, and there are a few things he just shared which I got just to know here. I didn't know. So coming back to my experience, I think there's quite a difference. I remember after the genocide, I was brought into, first of all, I was brought into a Ugandan school. Spent there a few months because I was a French speaker. So there was that transition going on between from French to English. Got some complications, so I had to be brought to a Rwandan school. And being brought to that Rwandan school, I had some difficulties in a way. For example, I remember what I chose to learn was commerce, but there was no sort of guidance of knowing what I want. So I decided to go into that, but we were introduced of what we'll be going through as I was getting into secondary school on 4th year, and so going along and the teaching and everything, I faced a number of challenges because even before I was in a Congolese school, and I was in a French system, and things were so intense. But the intensity, I didn't find it in our Rwanda school. So, and for example, to keep up with my French, to grow my English that I had got from Uganda, it was quite a challenge. But I ended the secondary school well, but I had doubts. I had doubts because I asked myself, but what I'm learning, is it what I want? So getting abroad, I went to Senegal, and that's where the question came, and that's where I discovered that what I chose to learn was not that. What I wanted was not what I was learning. So there was reviewing and asking myself, and so I think the past experience and now there's quite a difference. I would say there are different approaches coming on, but as the Ministry of Education is looking to improve, it's very good. It's even good that they are looking to update. But I'll be sharing a few things of involving sort of a guidance to students. I have an example to share.
You want to share it later?
No problem.
Okay, cool. Now, competence-based curriculum. You've distributed books. You've engaged your kids from school, in homeworks. How do you see it as a parent? How do you see it as a stakeholder in education and an author?
Well, I think I really want to appreciate Samuel for the comments that he made, because I think when we talk about education, most of the times we confuse education as education with the classroom. education is very global. It starts from home to classroom, to work. So to me as a parent, when I'm looking at education, I'm not looking at it just in the mathematics and English and physics and chemistry and biology. I'm looking at it also at the level of the product of what is coming out of the classroom. And I think competence-based curriculum has come. I was able to participate in the development of the knowledge-based curriculum textbooks. And therefore, I also participated in the competence-based curriculum textbooks. And there's a very big difference. The big difference is that the current books are orienting the children to do it by themselves. But the previous books were just helping the kids to have a lot of knowledge on, for example, chemistry, without relating it to the real life. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a very big achievement. But in that achievement, definitely as a parent, you face a lot of challenges, which I think we'll come back to later. But to me, competence-based curriculum is a solution, if only it is brought together and built in a way that it is helping parents, helping teachers, helping the schools to understand and be able to implement that curriculum. Because there's one thing to have a very beautiful curriculum. There's another thing to implement the curriculum, which I think is where we saw the dropout, or the drop in performance of the performance. Mm-hmm. It's because the curriculum was new. The people who are teaching the curriculum basically went through the knowledge-based curriculum. So they're implementing a curriculum that they don't know how it looks like. They get the training. Yes, the Ministry of Education is trying all its level best to, bring in experts here and there to train. But I think that was the major cause. Were we ready to implement the curriculum? That would be my question. Because drop off, the drop down of the pass definitely was a result of that, to me as a parent. Mm-hmm. Because if the teachers don't have the knowledge, the competence, the curriculum developers have knowledge, but maybe that knowledge is not practical, then that is where you find that there was a drop. But also, there's something very, very important that the competence curriculum has brought on the table. These things that Cornerstone have been doing on their own, out of their own initiative and love for education, including, having those other skills like communication skills. This is part of what the competence-based curriculum is going to take care of. So the issue remains with the Ministry of Education, are we up to the task?
Are we up to the task? And that actually brings us to the interview that we had with the State Minister for Education, Isaac Munyakazi, a few days ago before he left for the National Leadership Retreat. We wanted to be with him or any other official, but it was not possible because, as you may know, you all know, they are in the leadership retreat in Muherero, but we have this interview that might answer some of the questions or leave some unanswered that we might as well discuss here. Follow this video.
Actually, those are numbers. When you look at the performance in the previous year, 2017, compared to the performance generally in 2018, there is a drop of 1.3, as you said. But when you look at the transition from the curriculum level, from knowledge-based to competence curriculum, this is the first time our kids are doing the exams in this new curriculum, which involved into the teachers' capacity, teaching and learning materials, school infrastructures, which needs to support the implementation of competence-based curriculum. But when you look at all these challenges which we've been passing through in implementing this CBC, and you see the results where you can find this very small portion of drop, actually it's a good performance on our side. But again, it shows us the baseline, what we need to do in the future to improve the performance of our kids. And I would like to note that actually we don't judge the performance through the numbers, but the quality, the competences kids get, that's That's what is very important to us, and that is what led the government of Rwanda took decisions of reinforcing the quality through different cabinet decisions, like reinforcing the teaching profession, where we need at least to have competent teachers to deliver the competences we need. Actually, we can't talk about quality of education without having quality teachers. So that is a start where we need at least the best brain to embrace education as an option to study at the university, whereby the government is giving education subject as top priority among those subjects we used to give government scholarship. In addition to STEM subjects, now education is another priority. Second, we are reinforcing our teacher training colleges, because when we talk about quality of education, it should start from the basic, that primary level. So when you go out and see our teachers in primary education, we see that actually we need to do something right from the in-service, pre-service parts, where we prepare a teacher right at the school level, at the campus level, before he goes out to teach in our classrooms. So that's why we came up with strong decisions to reinforce our TTCs, teacher training colleges, so that we look at the future teacher at school level, looking at the curriculum delivered to them, equipment they use, infrastructure they have in those schools, attracting the best brain in those TTCs, so that in the future we are sure that at least those teachers are well prepared. This is actually in addition to the increment of 10% salary on our teachers, to make sure that in addition to what we used to give to our teachers, we even touch on their salary. This comes as an addition to Mwarimu Sako support. We give them Jiringa Mwarimu, we give them, we normally award them even at the level of giving the best teachers the motto, what we did last year. And we are looking at more motivation to give to our teachers. However much all this is not enough for what they do for our country, but this is government's commitment to show that we recognize the good work they do.
One of the statements you made while releasing the results was you're creating this competence-based curriculum is aiming at creating graduates who are ready for the job market. One would wonder, are you creating more job seekers than people who are actually going to create things?
One of the issues which this curriculum will address is to produce now competent graduates, to produce competent kids, those who will go out and be job creators than being job seekers as it used to be. So whatever we are doing in our schools now is now to start giving capacity to our kids in terms of critical thinking, being innovative, being problem solvers, so that whatever they face out, they use the knowledge they get at school to do something about it.
All right, that's it. Isaac Munyakazi, State Minister for Education, answering some of the questions you may have, but he gave us more questions as well to, ponder on. And now this brings me to you, Sam. He's talking about reinforcing teachers, making sure that teachers are competent. What is the situation like, and with teachers, and how can teachers be empowered to make sure that they even deliver competent students and graduates?
Thank you. I liked what Honorable Minister said, that you want to produce competent students, you have to have quality and competent teachers, and that's basic. It's foundational, and I think without that, then even the quality of the kids that we produce out of our schools is going to be doubtful. And I really think that when you look around, sometimes we go to these meetings of head teachers and teachers, and you know the government is calling out for the best people to do their best, and they are really doing their best, they are trying. However, I really think that one of the things that we try to do, like with our staff and even students, we encourage the need. Why do you want to do something? And that comes both to the students and even the teachers. Why are you doing this thing? Is it for the sake of the money that you're earning, or you want to look at it like, this is my mission. I am here to produce a quality person. I am here to change a life. And when you look at it from that perspective, whatever obstacles that are available, and sometimes even excuses, you know, but like, you know, mundanga gaciro zacu z'abanyarwanda, intore ishaka ibisubizo. You have to look for solutions. Despite the difficulties, what can I do with the little that I have? And when we push and encourage teachers and students to come out of that, you know, victim mentality, I am not empowered enough, I cannot do anything, and you tell them, yes, we understand, but what do you have that you can, how can you become more resourceful with the little you have? So I really think, to me, it comes back to the spirit behind, why are we doing this? Why am I in this profession? Is it as a last resort because I couldn't get a better job, or I am here for a reason? And if all teachers and head teachers looked at it from that perspective, even with the many obstacles that we have in our schools, I really believe a step could be made. So for me, I really think let's deal with that motivation behind it.
One of the comments I had earlier on my WhatsApp group was from a teacher who preferred anonymity, told me that I'm always embarrassed to share my country's policies in education. And then he says, in other areas, Rwanda is making headlines, but when it comes to education, you just don't want to talk about it. You told me you wanted to share your experience, but what does this inform you as in a graduate? What does this mean? Is it something that you also struggle with when it comes to Rwanda's education?
I'm not a teacher.
No, of course, your experience.
Yes,
you told me you wanted to.
I'm not a teacher, but I'm like a parent in a way. I sponsor a child, and I've been following this child for a number of years. And recently, he finished his third year in secondary, and I got to know that he wanted a specific line of thing that he wanted to follow, and he wanted it. But with the result he got, they putted him in a vocational school, you know, TVET, and I'm like, why? So I was like, I told his father, I don't agree. The child, we have to bring him to a school to what he wants. And I got to know that he was influenced by others, even by teachers, that he should go into construction. And I said, no, it will not happen. We had to call upon a meeting, and I had to ask the child, what do you really want? What is it in you? So the child said, I really want to follow computer science. And then with that, I even shared more things. Okay, I'm not an IT person, but at least I have some information. So I was like, you know, the result came out, and they just put children whenever they want, because maybe they didn't have a certain rate required. So I'm like, that has to be reviewed. So there should be like sort of like after the result is communicated, there should be sort of guidance. I don't know how they will come up with. So I was like, that has to be improved, like, because they are putting a student where they're not supposed to be, and you find that we are not even getting the products expected in the job market.
Previously, actually starting this year, the Ministry of Education was allocating students to different schools. You know, unlike the previous time when the head teachers had to go do, you know, selection. Yeah, and as a parent, if you wanted probably your teacher to go to, you know, a school in Musanze, and then your child is posted to a school in the Eastern Province. How would that be without your involvement as a parent?
Well, I think it's a difficult situation for a parent, but I want to come back to something that Gloria just said. We sat down and we said no. There's a tendency of, you know, and I will come back to the question that they asked you about the policy. Policymakers are there to make policies, but they make them for us, parents, teachers. Actually, the whole package of education, like I said before, it starts from a parent. Education has never started in the classroom. And that is why we are having a lot of challenges. Even the allocation of the child from, you know, Kigali to Musanze should be looked in the mirror of, you know, first of all, before the child goes to Musanze, is it what the child wants? Because I think I'm bringing in also the right of the child to make choices for his life. And when you don't do that, when you don't follow up, and that is why I was saying that maybe I'll talk about it later, we are faced with multiple challenges in education. Because education, quality education is expensive. Quality education takes a lot of participation from the government, from the teachers, from everybody, from the parents, from the communities. If there is a crisis of, I always tell people that people think that education can be given solutions the way we wake up and we find a stunted child, and then that stunted child in 7 days, if you administer the right dietary, you'll be able to get the, you know, the results in 7 days. But the problem with education is you get the results after a generation. You get the result when the child has graduated from university, cannot speak English, cannot speak French, cannot speak Nyarwanda, cannot speak Swahili, and cannot express themselves in any way. That is the impact of education. Unfortunately, because education is very expensive, it costs the government of Rwanda a lot of money, and most probably the budgets are cut down every time. It is not enough. You know, everybody is contributing to what they are supposed to be contributing, but still it is not enough. Why? The population of the students now, I think, are above 3 million. I don't know, maybe somebody will help me with the numbers. 3 million students. If you look at you know, the standard child, you know, pupil per teacher value, a teacher should not go beyond more than 20 students, I think, per day, you know, to teach in a classroom. But how many students do we have in our classrooms? And should we just go and say our education is dead, is gone, and is dead, you know? It's just like you just need to sit down and be like, by the way, what are we talking about here? Is it something that you have thought about? Is it something that you have knowledge? I am not an educator, but I've been following the education system from 2007. I studied in Rwanda. I graduated from Rwanda. So when I'm looking at it as a parent who has information, I am totally different from a parent who thinks that when the government of Rwanda, the Ministry of Education sends a kid to Musanze from Nyagatare, they're crazy, you know. Because there's a lot of information that is hidden from that parent because of lack of information. But I think at a certain level, it is because when we send our children to school, we don't even follow up to know which choices they made when they are making choices for the school. A child sits in the classroom and says, I am going to go, you know, apply for the school. So the first school comes as Kigali parents, and this kid maybe is in Hombo, in Nyamasheke. The second school is Lisedo Kigali. The third school is Notre Dame de Sito. So the child is being influenced by the friends who have seen that. And the parents don't have you know, maybe the capacity or don't have the opportunity to contribute to that. So when the results come out, sometimes it becomes a disaster. And we start now to attack the Ministry of Education, telling them what they have not done well, when we have actually failed as parents to do our responsibility. I am not saying it to defend the Ministry of Education. They have their issues, they have their challenges, they have their own side, you know, on the teachers and all that. But I think we need to be positive. He said that we need to look for solutions. So as a parent, I cannot sit here and cast my stone to the Ministry of Education because, first of all, they are my policymakers, they are my leaders. I put them in position to help me to make the right decisions as a parent, but at the same time, I didn't give them the whole parenting, responsibility.
They have their job to do.
Yes, they have their job to do.
Right, parents, you have a lot to do, and there are many questions that will be coming to you as parents. So do you have, one of the things that someone told me was, if you have 10 children, what do you expect? If you have one child, you're able to send them to, a school that you want, that you feel is right for your child. But if you have 10 children, then the government is going to help you, take care of them, educate them, and they can only do, what they can as the government. And those are some of the questions we'll be, tackling when we come back. We're going for a short break. When we come back, we'll be reading some of your comments and opinion on InFocus. And of course, remember the hashtag is at InFocus RW.
Bertrand n'ibintu bya fashion hano bihurira mu by'ukuri ubusanzwe Bertrand ndi umuntu ukunda kugaragara neza.
King na modeling, King ni umumodo, so I'm a model and personal trainer, byose mbikora icyarimwe.
Abantu bamwe bari bazi ko ngo kungufunga ari wa mukino ngo ugasanga ngo umuntu ngo ngarakomenga aravunagura ibintu.
Hano kabisa nta ribi.
ubuzima ni ingenzi kandi ubuzima ni urugendo. Ufite ubuzima nta cyiza atageraho. Iyo urwaye utakaza byinshi, birimo umwanya umara urwaye, igihe cyo kwivuza, utaretse n'ubushobozi. Uryamye aha ntaba arimo kwiteza imbere. Nyamara ubuzima burarindwa, burabungabungwa, yewe buranasigasirwa. Ibyo byose biterwa n'agaciro k'ibyo urya n'imyitozo ngororamubiri ukora. Inzira ni iyi rero. Ikiganiro cyacu kidufasha gusobanukirwa indwara zitandukanye ndetse no kuzirinda. Abaganga batandukanye b'inzobere tuzababagereraho badusangiza ubunararibonye bafite. Indwara zose mudasobanukirwa, uru ni rwo rubuga. Inama zitandukanye ku mirire n'imyifatire niyo ntego y'ikiganiro. Buri gihe intero izahora ari yayindi. Menya wirinde.
Welcome back. It's In Focus, RW, here on Rwanda Television. Now, we always encourage you to engage us in constructive conversations that can inform policy, that can inform conversations and, of course, discussions regarding the topics that we bring about. And here, we are assessing the quality of education in Rwanda. And here are some of your responses, as shared by you. Eddie Sabiti, he's my colleague, education needs particular attention in our country. Don't miss tonight. Thank you so much, Sabiti. Let me go to Rwanda Beranova, to Isenje Epiphany. Students mostly get more theoretical courses than practical because of practical fields shortage. So improving quality of education must give relevant courses through practical work and assessment rather than focusing on giving them the marks. Thank you so much, Beranova. Let me go back to some of your comments. Students, still the same. Ubuntu Publishers, what are your thoughts on education in Rwanda? Join us tonight. Oh, thank you so much for tweeting. In Focus, Karangwa Sewase. The quality of education from the... In Focus, quality of education starts from the family, like you said. The parents need to work closely with their children to sustain what a child learns from the school. Trained and qualified teachers, books, curriculum, infrastructure assists what a child receives from the family and community. Thank you so much, Karangwa, for your great opinion there. We have discussed about it earlier on. We saw Mutesi talking about it. Can't wait to watch this important discussion. Thank you so much. This is Kubwimana Jean-Claude. You know, it seems we don't have much, but you can always engage us on some of these discussions. Now, the question of parents having, having their role to play, and this is coming back to probably. Let me go straight to Gloria. How much were your parents involved in your education?
I would say my parents got much involved, especially getting to know what I want. And I was been lucky that they would even have us in conversation, because we know that there are some children who don't have that chance of getting time to be with their parents. So mine, they really started conversing with us and challenging us. Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that?
But was that what you wanted? I think that comes to that question.
For example, I would say is that they started getting involved me in certain activities of what I was studying, but on the other side, it was an opportunity for me to discover exactly what I had in me and about my personality, my skills, especially skills. Skills we don't.
By the way, you're in fashion industry?
Yes, I'm in the fashion industry.
Yeah, and how your education journey inform your decision?
For my education, one thing before I get involved in my education and comes back again to my parents, from kindergarten, they chose the best school, kindergarten. I studied in Belgian style, yeah. and studied in French school. So they made sure that I was in a good school. And Europeans, they have a way of following up with children. And I have a talent. I had a talent of drawing. And it's something I worked on, I developed. And my parents kept on encouraging me, And from kindergarten, I went to the Congolese school. And actually, I was among the best drawing artists in my class. And it's because of that. And from there, that's where even my actual work that I do as a textile designer, I use my skill.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So, she brought something quite impressive here of, languages. She was talking about, changing schools, from French school, English school. And this is something that we've experienced in Rwanda. Do you think this has in one way or another affected the quality of education in Rwanda?
Changing languages?
Yeah.
Well, I really don't think so. Again, it comes back to the quality of the work and of the teachers. Like in my school, even before the whole country adopted the English system, we used to have those from French backgrounds that within only 3 months they will be at par speaking good English. And actually experts say kids, young children can learn as many languages as you can teach them. And so to me, I don't think that's excuse enough for unless there is no interest. But if the child works hard and probably is in an environment where a language is spoken, again, it comes to the challenge, do we have enough teachers that, but I don't think it really limited the quality of the education.
I see Mtes want to, intervene. And yeah, what do you want to say on that?
It's weird. I think language is one of the major contributions to education, because once a teacher cannot be able to communicate, then the child is gone. Once the child cannot communicate, to me, I think Samuel is speaking from Cornerstone experience.
Exactly, and actually, from Cornerstone experience, it's fine. It's understandable. But let's go down to the remotest.
Let me go to the policy itself. And then a child starts, the policy for education for Rwanda says that you should, children are actually supposed to study in Kinyarwanda. The language of instruction is Kinyarwanda from nursery to P3. And Cornerstone, let me use maybe Kigali Parents or any other school, private school. Kigali Parents starts their English at nursery. The language of instruction is nursery.
I mean, it's English.
It's English.
Yeah.
Now, in nursery, the language of instruction is English, but there's another child who is using Kinyarwanda, goes home, speaks Kinyarwanda, the teacher speaks Kinyarwanda, everything is Kinyarwanda, and have some few hours of English in their, in their timetable for the class. And these two children will meet at the national exams in P6. To me, I find it as actually, it's one of the questions I would want to ask the Minister of Education.
Which question again?
The question is, how do you make two children who are coming from two different backgrounds? One has gone through Kinyarwanda up to P3, another one has gone through English up to P3, and they meet on one national exam after
primary
3 years. Yeah. Because this one is introduced to being taught in English in P4, and this one is introduced to being taught in English from the time they start speaking. So to me, I think by the time they get to P6, this child has actually become, English has become like the first language, whereas this one is a second language. And when you go to international programs like Cambridge, they have a second language exams and first language exams. If you get a child from, farthest south in Gisagara, who have parents maybe who never went to school, like the parents of Gloria, who don't care about the education system of that kid. The kid just turned 7 and is told to go to school. Or maybe there is a program that the government is mobilizing and everybody is going to school. This child has never met English anywhere. He's going to go in the classroom, meet most probably a teacher who doesn't speak any of the languages. Because I think one of the challenges we have, Samuel, is that some of the teachers we have, they don't actually have a language they speak. I'm very sorry to say it if it is offensive, but I have to apologize for that. It's that these people have moved. The system before genocide was, I don't know the system. I don't know if it was French, because I think, I don't know. But I think when genocide ended and the government of Rwanda was trying to set up the education system the way any other institution was being set up, we were still using French. Then there was a shift from French to English as a language of instruction from P4 to Senior 6. Now, the teachers that we had at that time...
a minute? So,
yes.
Yeah, you have a minute.
We have those, you have those people that came in. So now look at the people who are shifting from English. As old people, I like what you say, the children can learn as many languages. But what about a teacher?
Exactly. And actually this is, Gloria, you've been lucky to, to attend both schools, Francophone schools and Anglophone schools. And, the changes in this system. I want you to put yourself in a position of someone who is as farthest as possible, the remotest part of this country, who's not able to get all the opportunities probably like we're saying, they are not able to go to private schools. And these changes come, and then we have teachers who only were educated in French. How do you cope up with this? And what is your view on this and these changes? And do you think has also eaten into the quality of education in the country?
Thank you. Yeah, if I would put myself in the shoes of someone in the remote area, it would be difficult. But I believe there's need of having another approach of how to involve it. I gave the example of the child I sponsor. The father has not been in school, but he's talented in other things, but he doesn't know French, he doesn't know English. So actually it's like I took a role of parenting in another way. But for the case of villages, I think schools should set up sort of, how can I say, like a point of giving information and to they tell the parents, you know, even though you find yourself in this position, this is what your child has access to. This is just an idea. I think we need to develop approaches of how to address certain issues, because we know we have children that are very bright. We do. And even schools have to have a system of following up with those children and the parents if they know that there's a case in an area. This is how they are going to deal with, and they should have someone assigned to follow up and guide the parents, but even guide the children. For example, for the language, I have some friends, they didn't perform well in French, but they performed well in English. Actually, they got better marks than French system. I totally understood that French to learn in the French system is not easy. It's really hard. So I learned that maybe the way courses were given are totally different to French. So we have to prepare an environment whereby we allow the child to feel comfortable. You know, having comfort in is it easy? Is it coming? Am I able to learn quickly? Because the child may not perform well in French, perform well in English, or perform well in Kinyarwanda somehow. But even you have to give an example and demonstrate how is the child going to perform in this language.
Thank you, Gloria. Sam, let's go quickly. They were talking about, we have each one of you, I'll give you 1 minute so that we conclude this. The 10% increase in the salary for the public schools. What is your take on this, and how can this be sustained to make sure that teachers are motivated? But also, you can tell me, a friend was telling me you can't have 10 kids and you expect them to give them good quality of education. What should parents do? What is the role of parents?
I really think what parents need to do, like my colleagues have continued to say, play a part, be a part of your child's development and studying. Sometimes we call upon parents and they tell you we can't come, we are not available. And even if you've not been able to go to school, but even being available and the teacher shares with you what is happening in the life of the student, I really believe it's very helpful. And I really would like to encourage parents to come closer to the schools and come to the students and get involved with their students. I would like to say that the goal of education, that word education, comes from a Latin word, educare, which basically means to draw out, to lead out. So there is something in the lives of these students, and some of those come right away from the home. And so the role of teachers and the role of the parents should be able, how can we get the best out of this child? And I really think if we made that our focus, we can begin to see better results, absolutely.
Sure, thank you so much. Business, your last words?
I think I just want to re-emphasize what I said. One, to the government of Rwanda, as they are seeking more solutions to the education system, they should look at policies that are long-term. Things that, policies that don't change every 5 years or 3 years. Yes, the world is growing and there's a lot of changes that happen every day in every other sector, so it requires education to change. But there are some things that you can't just wake up and change, especially when it comes to education. So I think I'm just requesting them as a parent that when they want to make a policy, they should look at 20 years from now, the effects of that policy, because education is something that is very costly. It affects every other sector. It will determine which journalists you would have, which medical doctors you will have, which soldiers you will have. The police, it actually touches the whole sector.
And which teacher you'll have.
Yes. So I think it's much more about when you're making a policy, stand in the shoes of every Rwandan and make the policy that is fit for them, for the student, for the teacher, for the parent, and for the government to stand out in the education sector. Basically, but also the student. We didn't mention the law of the students, and maybe some of them are following.
Yeah, we have. You can briefly.
Yeah.
What should they do?
I think they should also learn to know how to make the right choices in terms of what they want to become in the future.
Thank you. Your final words?
My final words, I would say they should be towards the parents. Schools should create more awareness. And even schools have to come up with initiative by collaborating with a number of institutional organizations, even in entrepreneurs, and so that they may know how to grow the quality of education. And even I'm even asking even the schools to work hard and sensitize the student to have the culture of reading. It's one of the things that we see. We have opportunities of reading a number of things on social media, but I really encourage schools to encourage students to read.
Schools encourage students to read. And the last opinion from Nwali Obadia. Yeah. Yes. Last one. You have 20 seconds.
Thank you. You mentioned something about the 10% and what role it's going to have on the education. Thank you, Government of Rwanda, for considering the teachers. A motivated teacher will give a motivating lesson which will motivate the student. And so that was a plus, and undoubtedly we are going to see better performance as a result of that.
Well done, over there. You credit from the teacher to the government. And of course we have Nwali Obadia. Education should be based on talents of students when they're still in primary. Students need to study what they love. And that brings us to the end of today's discussion. Thank you so much for your participation. And thank you to my panelists here, Sam, Mutesi, and Gloria. Thank you so much for joining me. And we can always keep this conversation going with the hashtag InFocus@RW. My name is Ethan Tashobia, and have a very lovely night.